The October rain falls like bullets against the windshield. It is 11:47 at night on Route 128 outside Boston, and the highway stretches empty and black beneath a sky that offers no stars. Mia Harper sits behind the wheel of a 2003 Honda Civic with 180,000 miles on the odometer. The engine makes a sound like something dying. She has been hearing that sound for 3 weeks now. She knew it was coming. She has always known when bad things are coming. The car slows. Slows more. The steering wheel grows heavy beneath her palms. She pulls onto the shoulder. The engine gives one final, exhausted shudder and stops. Mia sits in the darkness with both hands still gripping the wheel. Rain drums against the roof. She does not move. She does not cry. Her tears dried up somewhere on a Greyhound bus 5 years ago, and she has not found them since. Instead, she closes her eyes and counts backward from 10. A habit. A prayer. A thing she does when there is nothing else left to do. The highway behind her remains empty. She checks her phone. 11:52. She has been driving for 17 minutes. Her shift at the diner started at 10. She is already almost 2 hours late. Her manager, Rick, will dock her pay. He always does. 30 minutes late means she loses the first table. An hour late means she loses dinner service commission. 2 hours late means Rick might tell her not to bother coming back at all. She had exactly $5 in her wallet before she got in this car. Now she has exactly $5 and the knowledge that her ancient Honda has finally completed its long, slow death. She opens the door and steps out into the rain. The October cold hits her like a fist. Her jacket is thin, a thing from the discount bin at Target 3 years ago, and it has never been waterproof. The rain soaks through in seconds. Her jeans stick to her legs. She has no umbrella. She has never owned an umbrella. An umbrella costs money. She walks to the front of the car and pops the hood anyway, as if this time something different will happen. As if she understands engines. As if understanding could fix anything. The engine block is slick and cold beneath her fingertips. Water drips down her wrists and into her sleeves. She touches the battery cables. She touches things she does not understand, looking for a thing she cannot name. Looking for a sign that this is not really happening. A pair of headlights appears in the distance. The first car to pass in 20 minutes. But it does not pass. The car slows as it approaches. A black sedan, expensive, the kind of car that belongs to people who have never eaten from a dumpster behind a restaurant. It pulls up beside her, and the window rolls down with a whisper of expensive mechanisms. "You need help." A man's voice. Older. Not unkind. Mia wipes her hands on her jeans, leaving streaks of motor oil and rain. Just broke down. I'll call someone. She will not call someone. She cannot afford to call someone. A tow truck costs $90 minimum. She has $5. Where are you headed? Boston. Downtown. I'm late for work. The man leans across the passenger seat, and she sees him clearly for the first time. Gray hair, expensive wool coat, the kind of tired that money cannot fix. Get in. I'll give you a ride. Every warning her mother ever gave her screams silently in her bones. Do not get in cars with strangers. Do not trust kindness. Do not believe that the world contains people who help for nothing in return. But Mia is already 2 hours late. Already facing the loss of her shift. Already watching her $5 dissolve into a future that offers nothing but more broken cars and more empty pockets. She gets in the car. The interior smells like leather and something expensive. The heat is on. The radio plays classical music at a low volume. The man drives smoothly, and the car purrs beneath them like something alive and healthy, the opposite of everything she owns. What kind of work? He asks. Diner. Down on Atlantic. Long shift. Till morning. 6-6. The man says nothing for a moment. The windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm against the rain. Beat, beat, beat. The sound fills the silence like a heartbeat that belongs to something other than her. That's a hard life, he says finally. Mia does not respond. Hard life is not the name for this. Hard is a word people use when they have experienced one difficult thing. This is not hard. This is gravity. This is the weight of choices made by people who did not ask for her consent. Her ex-boyfriend Douglas. Her mother who drank herself toward a grave when Mia was 16. Her father who never existed at all in any way that mattered. These are not hard lives. These are sentences. These are inherited curses. The car accelerates onto the highway. 2 miles ahead, in the darkness, another car comes toward them. Then another. Then a third. Black SUVs, moving fast. The man in the sedan grips the wheel. What is, Mia starts. The first SUV hits them sideways. Physics becomes a violent, screaming thing. The sedan spins. Glass shatters. Mia's head whips against the window. Her vision fragments. The car rolls. The sound is the sound of everything breaking. Metal shredding. The man screaming her name, though he does not know her name. They come to rest on their side. Rain pours through the shattered windows. Mia's ears ring. She tastes blood. Then she hears something else. An engine. The back SUV, the one that struck them, has pulled forward 50 yards. It is on fire. Fire. She does not know why she moves. She should sit here bleeding. She should wait for help. She should accept that this is beyond her. But her legs push her out of the wrecked sedan anyway. Her feet hit the highway. The rain is colder now, or she is colder, or both are the same thing. The back door of the burning SUV is crumpled but not fused shut. She pulls it. Once. Twice. Her hands split open along the knuckles. She can see the damage now, see the blood mixing with the rain. She pulls again. The door opens. A man is inside, slumped against the far window. Expensive suit soaked with blood and rain. Dark hair. A gash across his temple streaming red. She does not think. Thinking would prevent her from moving. She reaches in and grabs his jacket and pulls. He is heavy. He is so heavy. He comes out of the seat like something being born wrong, angles all broken and terrible. She drags him away from the SUV. Her hands slip on his jacket. Her legs threaten to give. 20 feet away, the distance feels impossible. Behind them, the SUV exhales fire. 2 more black SUVs screech to a stop. Doors open. Men in dark suits pour out, guns drawn, their faces twisted in confusion and rage. Then they see her. A soaking wet woman with bleeding hands and matted hair, kneeling over a man in an expensive suit, her hands pressed to his chest. He is alive, she gasps. He is alive. Get him to a hospital. Now. The men move like machines. One of them scoops up the man in the suit and carries him toward the first SUV. Another grabs her shoulder. Come on. The SUV she just pulled him from explodes. The fireball climbs into the rain-soaked sky, orange and hungry and absolute. It turns night into day for a single, perfect second. Mia does not look back. She is already moving toward the first SUV, already being pushed inside, already watching the man in the suit being laid across the back seat while one of the men presses a hand to his wound. The SUV accelerates. Boston disappears behind them. The rain continues to fall. And Mia Harper, soaking wet with $5 in her pocket and a shift she will never make, sits in the back of a black SUV next to a man she does not know, wondering if she has just saved his life or ended her own. 7 days earlier, she stood in her apartment with an eviction notice in her hands. The apartment is on the 4th floor of a building that was nice perhaps in 1987. The hallway smells like boiled cabbage and someone's cigarettes and the specific despair of people who have lived here too long. A unit is 2 bedrooms, which is to say it is 1 bedroom and a second room where Emma sleeps and where Mia keeps the things that do not fit anywhere else. She stands in the kitchen now, which is 4 feet wide and connects directly to the living room, which is to say they are the same room. The eviction notice is printed on official paper. The letterhead has a company logo. The numbers are very clear. $35,217. 7 days. The handwriting at the bottom is from a lawyer named Morrison Finch. She has never met Morrison Finch. Morrison Finch has never met her. But Morrison Finch controls her fate now. She places the notice on the kitchen counter beside a bowl of cereal. Emma's breakfast. Her daughter sits at the small folding table in the living room, swinging her legs, waiting. Emma is 7 years old and she understands already that her mother counts money. That her mother's face looks different depending on whether the money numbers go up or down. She has learned not to ask for things. Is everything okay, Mommy? Emma's voice is small. She is eating cereal. Milk drips down her chin. Yes, baby. Everything is fine. Mia does not look at her daughter while she lies. She looks at the notice instead. $35,000. In the diner, on a normal shift, she makes maybe $40 in tips. $40 from 8 hours of smiling at people who do not see her. $40 from carrying plates that are heavier than her exhaustion. $40 for remembering that coffee means $1 tip and hash browns mean no tip at all. $40 divided by $5 an hour wage means she makes roughly $45 per shift. It would take her 781 shifts to save $35,000. 781 shifts is 5 years. She has 7 days. She sits down across from Emma. We are going to have an adventure, Mia says. Emma stops swinging her legs. What kind of adventure? A moving adventure. We are going to find a new apartment. A better one. Emma processes this. She is smart. She knows already that moving means leaving and leaving means loss. She has already left 3 apartments. I do not want to move, Emma says quietly. I know, baby. But sometimes we have to. The apartment has broken things in it. The radiator bangs at 2 in the morning. The window in the bedroom does not close all the way, and the October cold comes in like something alive. There is a stain on the ceiling from a leak in the upstairs neighbor's unit that no one has fixed in 8 months. There is also a small photo on the refrigerator of Emma at age 3, held up by a magnet shaped like a butterfly. This photograph is the thing Mia will save if the apartment ever catches fire. She has $5. She has 2 days until her next paycheck, which will be approximately $180 before taxes, which means approximately $140 after taxes. She has a Honda Civic with 180,000 miles that sounds like it is dying. She has a job that pays $5 an hour and tips. She has an ex-boyfriend named Douglas Hale who knows where she lives and who called her 3 days ago to say he was coming for Emma. She has not told Emma this yet. She finishes the eviction notice and puts it in a drawer beneath some old takeout menus and bills she cannot pay. Then she puts on her uniform for the diner shift, which is a black shirt and black pants and a name tag that says Millie because her real name is too long for the name tag and Rick thought Millie was cuter. She kisses Emma on the top of her head. Stay with Mrs. Chen. Do your homework. Do not let anyone in the door. Do you understand? Yes, Mommy. The stairs down from the 4th floor take her past neighbors she does not know well. One man leans out his door as she passes. Hey, he says. You got a cigarette? She does not even stop. She does not have cigarettes. She does not have anything anyone would want to borrow. The October night is cold. The streets of Boston are full of people who look like they have somewhere to be. She walks toward the diner, which is 3 miles away. She walks because she has no money for the bus. The walk takes 45 minutes. By the time she arrives, her feet ache. Her legs are cold. Her hair is starting to fall down from the knot she tied it in this morning. Rick is already angry when she walks through the door. "You're late." "My car broke down." "I don't care if your car broke down or if your house burned down. You are late. You missed the dinner shift. You get minimum wage for the night." "That is it. Minimum wage is $5 an hour. She will work until 6 in the morning. That is 13 hours. 13 hours at $5 an hour is $65 before taxes, which means maybe $50 after. $50 is not enough to stop the eviction. $50 is not enough to do anything at all. She ties on her apron and walks to the counter. The diner smells like fried food and burnt coffee and the exhaustion of people like her. An old man sits at the counter drinking black coffee. He looks like he has been here for 40 years. She wonders sometimes if she will end up like him, an old woman at the counter at 3 in the morning, drinking coffee and waiting for the end to arrive. Her shift begins. The rain outside continues to fall. The hours pass like water dripping from a faucet. Slow. Inevitable. Impossible to stop. The shift ends at 6 in the morning. Mia's feet are swollen inside, shoes held together with duct tape. Her lower back aches from standing 13 hours on a concrete floor. She counts the register twice because Rick watches her like she might steal from him, though there is nothing to steal. $73 in tips. Crumpled bills and coins scattered across the counter like someone threw her life in pieces. She picks them up slowly, carefully, as if they might disappear if she moves too fast. The walk home takes 45 minutes. October cold cuts through her thin jacket like a blade wrapped in ice. Dead leaves skitter across the sidewalk in the pre-dawn darkness. She passes the bus stop on Hancock Street but does not even slow down. The fare is $2.75. She has $5 total. She will need every dollar. Mia's breath comes out in visible clouds. Her fingers are numb. The skin on her knuckles is cracked and bleeding from 14 hours of washing dishes in scalding water. She does not feel it anymore. Pain requires energy, and she has none left. The apartment building is 4 stories of peeling yellow paint and broken windows covered with plastic sheeting. The hallway smells like mold and something else she stopped trying to identify months ago. She climbs the stairs slowly. Every step echoes. She thinks about how many times she has climbed these stairs. How many more times she will climb them before everything changes. Or before everything ends. The apartment is dark. The heat has been shut off for 3 days. She can see her breath. She can always see her breath now. Emma is asleep on the worn couch, curled under a blanket so thin it is almost transparent. Lucas is in the bedroom, his small body taking up almost no space in the bed they share. Both children are still wearing yesterday's clothes because clean clothes mean laundry, which means quarters for the machine, which means money she does not have. Mia moves to the kitchen counter. There is a mason jar sitting there. She opens it and counts out the bills inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. $5 in crumpled ones. She spreads them out on the counter and stares at them like they might transform into something more if she watches long enough. On the refrigerator, the eviction notice is taped at eye level. She taped it there herself on the day it arrived. Not because she likes looking at it, but because it forces her to face it every single day. The numbers are printed in bold black letters. $35,000 due in 7 days. She whispers the number to herself. 35,000. The words taste like metal. Like blood. Like the end of something. She opens the cabinet above the sink. 1 box of oatmeal. Half a container of powdered milk. Peanut butter with only enough for maybe 2 more sandwiches. She takes the oatmeal down and fills a pot with water from the tap. The water is brown for the first few seconds. She waits for it to run clear. While the water boils, she stands at the sink and stares out the window at the Boston street below. A man walks past with a briefcase. A woman in a long coat and real shoes. A car that costs more than everything Mia owns combined. The world keeps spinning. People keep moving. The water reaches a boil. She makes 3 bowls of oatmeal. Thin bowls. Just enough. She wakes Emma first, carrying her to the small kitchen table. Emma is 6 years old but looks smaller, like her body has not caught up with the world. Her hair is tangled. Her fingernails have dirt under them. "Mommy, I'm not hungry," Emma says, but Mia sets the bowl in front of her anyway. "Eat, baby." She wakes Lucas next. He is 4 and his eyes are confused when he opens them, like he is surprised to find himself still alive, still here, still small. The 3 of them sit at the table. Mia places her bowl on the counter instead of sitting with them. She stands while they eat. She watches them. "Aren't you eating?" Emma asks, and her voice carries a weight that no 6-year-old voice should carry. "Mommy already ate," Mia says. This is the 14th time she has said this lie. She lost count after that. Emma stares at her. She is old enough to understand that the lie is a lie. She is not old enough to understand why her mother must tell it. She looks back at her oatmeal and eats. The sun comes up grey. October light through dirty windows. Mia gets the children dressed. She puts on her diner uniform. It smells like French fries and cigarette smoke. No amount of washing gets the smell out. She pulls her hair back into a knot that is coming apart. At 7:30, she walks Emma to Riverside Elementary. The school is 2 miles away. They walk because the bus fare is $2.75 times 2, which is $5.50, which is more than she has in total. Emma's hand is small in hers. The girl does not complain about the walk, though her shoes are also held together with duct tape. At the school gate, Emma turns back. "Mommy, will you be here when I get out?" "Yes, baby. I will be here." She will not be here. She will be at the diner. A friend named Ruth, who works part-time as a crossing guard, will pick Emma up and watch her until Mia can get away. Ruth does this for free. Ruth is the only reason Mia's children do not spend their afternoons alone. Mia watches Emma disappear into the school building. The other children walk past, carried by parents in clean coats, holding lunch boxes and backpacks that match. Emma has neither. She carries her lunch in a plastic bag. A sandwich on bread from yesterday that is going hard. An apple. An empty thermos that once held milk but now holds water because milk costs money. The walk back takes 30 minutes. She has 6 minutes before she needs to leave for the diner. She sits on the apartment steps and counts her $5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 35,000 divided by 5 is 7,000. She needs to make $7,000 somehow before the notice becomes real. Before the lock changes and her things are moved to the sidewalk. Before Emma and Lucas have nowhere to sleep. She does the math differently. If she works every single day of the next 7 days at 13 hours a day, making $50 a night after taxes, that is $350. $350 toward 35,000. She laughs. It sounds like crying. The diner is already busy when she arrives. Frank, the manager, is smoking a cigarette by the register. He is 48 years old and has been yelling at waitresses for 23 of those years. He looks up when she ties on her apron. "You're cutting it close." Traffic. This is a lie. There was no traffic. There was only a walk and a 6-year-old holding her hand and a mother who cannot afford to ride the bus. The shift moves like every other shift. Coffee that tastes like nothing. Eggs that people push around their plates and leave half-eaten while she has not eaten since yesterday afternoon. A man at table 6 who puts his hand on her leg when she leans down to take his plate. She moves away. He laughs. She does not report it because reporting it means Frank will ask questions and she cannot afford complications. By 2 in the afternoon, her feet are screaming. Her lower back has moved from aching to something that feels like broken glass when she bends. A family with 2 children comes in and sits in her section. The little boy is maybe 4, like Lucas. He is clean. His clothes have no stains. He spills his juice and his mother wipes it up without sighing. Mia brings the check. They leave $5 on a $32 bill. She picks it up and puts it in her apron pocket. $5. Exactly what she already has. Now she has 10. At 2:15, Frank approaches her with an envelope. Her tips from the week. You did okay, he says. Regulars like you. She opens the envelope in the kitchen. $73. Crumpled bills and coins. She counts it 3 times to make sure it is real. $73. She stands at the sink and does the math aloud, barely whispering. 73 plus 10 is 83. I need 35,000 in 6 days. The number is too large. The space between 83 and 35,000 is not a gap. It is an ocean. It is a chasm. It is something that cannot be crossed. She laughs. It echoes off the metal counter. A cook named Michael looks at her like she might be breaking. Maybe she is. You okay? He asks. I'm fine, she says. She is not fine. The door to the diner opens. October wind blows in and makes the small bell above the door chime. A man walks in. He is tall. Muscular. 34 years old with the kind of face that women notice. Dark hair. Eyes that are dark as well. He wears a leather jacket that probably costs more than Mia's entire apartment. It is Douglas Hale. Mia's hands stop moving. The plate she was holding stays in the water. She does not breathe. Douglas moves to the counter and sits on a stool. He does not order anything. He just sits and watches. She can feel his eyes on the back of her head. She can feel the weight of him in the diner, taking up space, taking up air. Frank comes out of the kitchen and sees Douglas immediately. His entire body language changes. He becomes smaller. He becomes afraid. Mr. Hale, Frank says. Good to see you. Coffee, black, Douglas says. But he is not looking at Frank. He is looking at Mia. She takes a breath. She serves another table. She moves away from his line of sight. It does not matter. She can still feel him. She can still feel the presence of him like a weight pressing down. He has been gone for 6 months. She filed the restraining order 3 months ago. The police served it to him. He signed it. It is a piece of paper that says he cannot contact her, cannot come near her, cannot threaten her. The paper is in her apartment in a folder with other important documents. The paper means nothing. He finishes the coffee. He puts money on the counter. $30 for a $5 coffee. He leaves without speaking to her. But as he walks past the kitchen where she stands, he slows down and speaks quietly. I know where you sleep, Mia. His voice is soft. Almost gentle. More terrifying because of it. I know which school she goes to. Emma, right? 2nd grade this year. She has brown hair like her mother. Doesn't listen to a word anyone says. She does not move. She does not breathe. She does not turn around. The restraining order is paper. Paper tears easily. I will come when you are not expecting it. I will come and you will not be able to do anything about it. He leaves. The bell above the door chimes again. Through the window, she sees him get into a police cruiser. There are 2 officers inside. They are laughing. Douglas is laughing. They know each other. They know each other very well. Mia sets down the plate she has been holding. Her hands are shaking so badly that the plate almost drops. Michael finds her in the corner of the kitchen 5 minutes later, standing very still, staring at nothing. "You need to sit down," he says. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're white. Like a ghost. Sit down." She sits. He brings her water in a paper cup. She drinks it but does not taste it. She thinks about Emma in 2nd grade. Emma with brown hair. Emma who does not listen. Emma who is 6 and innocent and has no idea that the man who helped make her is tracking her like a hunter. She thinks about the paper on her refrigerator. The restraining order that is only paper. She thinks about the other paper, the eviction notice, $35,000 due in 7 days. She thinks about how small the space is between one disaster and another. How they stack on top of each other like cards until the whole thing collapses. Across the city, in a high-rise office on the 42nd floor of a building made of glass and steel, Aleandro Valenti is making a deal. He is 41 years old and has built an empire that controls the underground poker rooms, the shipping docks, the protection networks of the entire Northeast. He sits at a table with 2 men who have flown in from New York. They want something from him. He will give it to them, but only if they give him something in return. He does not know that in 5 days, he will be on a highway outside Boston during a freezing rainstorm. He does not know that his empire will pause. He does not know that a woman with $83 and a shattered prayer card will change the entire trajectory of his life. But the rain is already coming. The rain is already on its way. The underground poker room sits beneath a warehouse in South Boston, 40 feet below street level. The air hangs thick with cigar smoke, like a curtain that never moves. Green felt tables glow under low-hanging brass lamps. Stacks of cash sit beside casino chips, hundreds of thousands of dollars waiting for a hand that will never come. Armed guards stand at every door, their faces carved from stone. No one speaks above a whisper. No one moves unless Aleandro Valenti moves first. He sits at the center table, 41 years old, built like a man who has fought his way through every obstacle the world could throw at him. His dark suit costs more than a year of Mia Harper's rent. No tie. The first button of his white shirt is open, revealing the hollow at his throat. His eyes are storm gray, the color of a sky before lightning strikes. A thin scar runs from his left eye to his cheekbone like a blade drawn by violence long ago. Tony stands at his right shoulder. Luca at his left. They have worked for him for 15 years. They have seen him command empires. They have seen him destroy men with a single glance. But they have never seen him smile. Not once. Tonight, Aleandro watches a game between 3 shipping magnates from New York. The men are nervous. They know who he is. They know that every poker room from here to Philadelphia feeds money into his hands. They know that his empire runs on the docks, in the basements of restaurants, in the private clubs where powerful men hide their weaknesses. One of the players, a man with a gold Rolex and a desperate face, slides a card from his sleeve. The movement is small. Almost invisible. But Aleandro sees it the way a hunter sees a deer that does not know it is being watched. He does not raise his voice. His voice, when it comes, is deep and solid like an oath. The hand is finished, he says. 2 guards move forward. The man with the Rolex stands up, his face crumbling like wet paper. Aleandro does not let him finish. The guards escort him toward the exit. His protests echo off the concrete walls and then vanish into nothing. Everyone at the table goes quiet. The sound of chips clicking together stops. The ice in the remaining players' glasses goes still. Luca leans close to Aleandro and whispers, "What do you want us to do with him?" "Nothing," Aleandro says. "He is no longer worth my time. This is how power works in this city. Not with screams. With silence. With the terrible understanding that you have become less than invisible. You have become nothing at all. At 10 o'clock that same night, the private entrance to the poker room opens. A woman walks through. Cordelia Blackwood. 42 years old. A designer dress that costs $8,000. Blonde hair swept back to show a face that was beautiful once, before cruelty carved lines around her mouth. Her smile is sharp enough to draw blood. Aleandro sees her and his entire body goes rigid. Tony and Luca feel the shift in the air. They know what this means. They know who she is. Aleandro, Cordelia says, her voice like poison poured into honey. It has been too long. You are not welcome here, Aleandro says. His tone is flat. Dangerous. I came to discuss a business opportunity, Cordelia continues, moving closer to the table. I have rebuilt my network. I have capital. I have connections. I want back in. No. I am not finished. You are finished, Aleandro says, and now he stands. He is 6 feet tall, and when he stands, the entire room understands that something dangerous has woken. 2 years ago, I discovered that you used my network to destroy families. Innocent people. You did it for sport. For entertainment. I cut you out because you are a predator. Nothing has changed. Cordelia's smile sharpens into something cruel. You will regret this, Aleandro. I always collect what I am owed. And I always collect with interest. She turns and walks toward the exit. Her heels click against the concrete floor like a countdown. Tony mutters under his breath, that woman is a snake. Worse than a snake, Aleandro says quietly. A snake kills because it is hungry. She kills because she is bored. 3 blocks away, at that exact moment, Mia Harper is walking home from her double shift at Mason's family restaurant. Her feet hurt. Her hands smell like grease and coffee. She carries a plastic bag with $4 worth of pasta and a carton of milk, all she could afford with the money left over after paying for her daughter's school supplies. The October cold is sharp. It bites at her face and makes her eyes water. She wears a thin jacket that has a hole in the left pocket. She has a hole in her jacket because she cannot afford another one. The math of her life is always like this. Small deficits that add up to something catastrophic. She passes a toy store window. A father and his daughter stand outside, laughing. The girl is maybe 6 or 7, with ribbons in her hair. The father lifts her up and spins her around. She squeals with pure joy. Mia looks away. She blinks back tears because she promised herself she would not cry anymore. She cried so much in the first year after Douglas left that she ran out of tears. Now, 5 years later, she has learned how to make them come back. They come back when she sees other people's happiness. She counts her money under a streetlight. $78. In 3 days, her landlord wants $35,000. The eviction notice is sitting on her refrigerator, next to Emma's drawing of their family. The drawing shows Mia in a yellow dress and Emma and Lucas holding her hands. There is no father in the drawing. There is no one else. $78. 3 days. 2 children who sleep in her room because they are afraid to be alone. Emma, who has started asking when Daddy is coming home, even though Mia has explained, again and again, that he is not coming home. Lucas, who is 7 and quiet and has learned not to ask for things. Lucas, who eats slowly because he has learned that if he eats slowly, the food lasts longer. She walks home through streets that are empty. The sidewalk is hard under her feet. Her shoes have holes in the soles and she has lined them with cardboard to keep the cold out. The cardboard is wet and falling apart. She does not know that in 3 days, on a highway outside the city, a storm will force her world and Aleandro Valenti's world to collide. She does not know that a man who has spent 41 years building an empire will find his entire life transformed by the simple act of her saving him. She does not know that Cordelia Blackwood, walking away from the poker room with revenge burning in her chest, will see Mia as the perfect weapon. But the storm is coming. The rain is already on its way. October 23rd. 11:47 at night. The highway outside Boston is dark and empty. The rain falls so hard that the wipers cannot keep up with it. Mia's car, a 2006 Honda Civic with 190,000 miles on it, finally gives up. The engine sputters and dies. She coasts to the shoulder. She sits in the darkness and does not cry. Her hands grip the steering wheel so hard her knuckles go white. She checks her phone. She has enough battery to call for help, but a tow truck costs money. Money she does not have. She sits there and thinks. She thinks about Emma and Lucas at home with her mother, who has let them stay at her apartment only because Mia promised to pick them up by midnight. A pair of headlights appears through the rain. An SUV, black and gleaming. It pulls up behind her car. 4 men step out. They are dressed in expensive suits. They move like soldiers. One of them approaches her window. She rolls it down an inch. "I am fine. I called roadside assistance." "No, you did not," the man says. His name is Tony, though she does not know this yet. "You sat in your car for 6 minutes without moving. You did not call anyone. How do you?" "The boss is in the vehicle behind us. He has been in an accident on this highway. You pulled him out of a burning car. He wants to thank you." Mia's heart rate spikes. She thinks about Douglas. She thinks about the restraining order that sits on her dresser, the one the police said they would honor but never did. She thinks about all the times he has found her. All the times he has promised he would get her back. "I need to get home," she says, her voice trembling. "My children are waiting." "We will take you," Tony says. "But first, the boss wants 5 minutes. Please." He opens her car door. Mia gets out. The rain soaks through her thin jacket immediately. She is shaking. Behind the black SUV, a second vehicle sits with its engine running. The door opens and a man steps out. Aleandro Valenti stands in the rain. There is a bandage on his left temple and blood on his right hand where the car window cut him when he shattered it to escape. But his face is calm. His suit is soaked but his bearing is still regal. He looks at Mia and something shifts in his expression. "You saved my life," he says. "Anyone would have." "No," he interrupts. "They would not have. I have learned that lesson many times." "You did. That makes you extraordinary." The rain falls between them. Mia's hair is plastered to her face. She is shaking from cold and fear and the shock of the night. "Why did you pull me from the car?" Aleandro asks. "Because you were going to burn," Mia says simply. He stares at her for a long moment. Then he says, "Come with me. I will take you home. And tomorrow, I want to help you." "Let me help you." "I do not need help," Mia says, but her voice is hollow. She is thinking about the $35,000. She is thinking about Douglas. She is thinking about how small her life is. How fragile. "Yes," Aleandro says. "You do." The next morning, October 24th at 8:17 in the morning, Mia hears the sound of multiple engines outside her apartment building. She is making breakfast for Emma and Lucas, the last of the oatmeal, stretched thin with water to make it go further. Emma is complaining that she is hungry and Lucas is kicking his legs under the table. Mia walks to the window and her blood freezes. 20 men in black suits stand on the sidewalk below. 4 black SUVs are parked at angles that suggest military precision. They are standing so still that they look like statues. She thinks they are here for Douglas. She thinks he has sent them. She pulls the children into the bedroom and locks the door. Her hands are shaking as she dials 911. "Boston police, what is your emergency? There are men outside my building. I have a restraining order against someone and I think." But then she hears a knock. Not violent. Measured. Patient. Tony's voice from the hallway, "Miss Harper. We are here on behalf of Aleandro Valenti." He would like to speak with you. It is safe. You are safe. She opens the door a crack, the chain still on. Tony stands in the hallway. Behind him, the stairs are filled with men. The boss wants to thank you properly, Tony says. He is downstairs. Would you come down? Just for 10 minutes. Leave your children with your neighbor if you are comfortable. Mia nods, unable to speak. Downstairs, on the sidewalk, Aleandro stands in a dark suit with a bandage on his temple. 19 men stand at attention behind him. Neighbors watch from windows and doorways. This is not a subtle arrival. This is a statement. I want to help you, Aleandro says. I know about the eviction notice. $35,000. I am paying it. Why would you do that? Mia whispers. Because you saved my life. And because no child will be afraid in their own home. Not while I can stop it. He dismisses the men with a gesture. They vanish into the SUVs and drive away. Now it is just the three of them, Mia, Aleandro, and Tony. Come inside, Mia says. Her voice is barely audible. Please. In the apartment, Emma and Lucas peek out from behind the couch. Aleandro crouches to their level. He speaks gently, the way someone speaks to scared animals. Your mother saved my life, he says. That makes her a hero. Heroes are very strong. Mia breaks down. She tells him everything. The $35,000. The $78 in her account. The double shifts that are never enough. Douglas Hale. The restraining order that means nothing. The way the police laugh when she calls them. Aleandro's face goes very still. This man threatens your daughter. Mia nods. Aleandro pulls out his phone. He makes one call. I need a full background on Douglas Hale. Everything. By tonight. He hangs up and turns to Mia. The eviction is handled. And the man who threatened your daughter will not threaten anyone ever again. This is my promise to you. That evening, Mia's landlord calls. The full amount has been paid. She collapses on the couch and cries. But beneath the gratitude, something cold settles in her chest. Debt. Obligation. The terrible understanding that nothing is free. Everything costs something. And she has no idea what Aleandro Valenti will expect from her in return. The school gates rattled with the force of his voice. 7:30 in the morning, and Douglas Hale stood across the street with two off-duty cops flanking him like bookends, their uniforms trading for civilian jackets but their swagger intact. Mia felt Emma's small hand grip hers as other parents turned to stare. You think some mobster scares me? Douglas shouted across the schoolyard, his voice cutting through the October cold like a blade. I will burn your life down, Mia. I will burn it all down. The cops laughed. One of them actually laughed, a sound that hung in the morning air like a death sentence. Emma started crying. Lucas froze, his small frame going rigid against Mia's leg. Other children watched. Teachers pretended not to see. Mia's throat closed. She could taste the metal of her own fear, bitter and coating her tongue. Tony appeared 5 steps behind her, but not far enough behind. He had been there since the restaurant closed last night, since Aleandro decided that invisible protection was no longer acceptable. His presence was meant to be a comfort. Instead, it was proof that the danger was real enough to warrant armed men in dark coats. She walked the children inside, her hand shaking so badly she could barely sign the attendance sheet. The principal said nothing. What could he say? This was the world now, and not just hers, but theirs too. Her children's school days bracketed by threat and violence. By noon, the walls were closing in entirely. Cordelia Blackwood sat in Mia's section at Mason's family restaurant, in the corner booth by the window that got the weak autumn light. She wore an oyster-colored dress that probably cost more than Mia's entire monthly salary, and her smile was the smile of someone who had never been told no. Mia felt her hand shake as she approached with the coffee pot. Double shot of espresso, Cordelia said, not looking up from her phone. And we should talk about Aleandro. Mia's breath caught. She poured the coffee with deliberate slowness, trying to keep the pot steady. A single brown drop fell onto the white saucer. She stared at it. Sit, Cordelia said. It was not a request. Mia glanced at the manager. He was in the back. No one would stop her. No one would help her either. She sat across from Cordelia, her apron still tied around her waist, smelling of grease and coffee. Men like Aleandro Valenti do not help people out of kindness, Cordelia began, her voice smooth as cream. I am sure you understand that. He is a businessman. Every transaction has a cost. Every favor has a price. She let that settle, then continued, what do you think he will demand in return for $35,000? For the eviction notice he paid? For the problem he erased? He did it because... Because what? Cordelia's eyes were ice. Because he loves you? He met you 5 days ago, Mia. 5 days. And now your name is connected to his. Do you understand what that means? Mia's jaw tightened. When he is done with you, Cordelia said, lifting the espresso to her lips, where will you be? More importantly, where will your children be? You have painted a target on them. A bright, glowing target. And the people who would use them to hurt him, they are numerous and very dangerous. Mia stood up. I should get back to work. Of course you should. Cordelia reached into her purse and withdrew a business card and a $100 bill. She placed both on the table. When you are ready to disappear before this destroys you, call me. I can make you vanish completely. New names, new city, new life. Before the real price gets paid. Mia left the card there, but the $100 bill felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She could not look at it without hearing Emma's crying at the school gates. 1 o'clock in the morning. The apartment was dark except for the single lamp above the kitchen table, and Mia sat beneath it like a prisoner in an interrogation room. The envelope Aleandro had left sat in front of her. $5,000 in cash, folded and rubber-banded, on top of the receipt from the landlord showing the $35,000 paid in full. $40,000. She counted it twice. Her hand shook. The worn prayer card her mother had given her sat beside the envelope, small and laminated, the edges soft from years of being held. She picked it up, read the faded words, "The Lord will guide you through darkness." Her mother had believed that. Her mother had also died with nothing but this card and regret, leaving her daughter to figure out how to survive alone. Cordelia's words played on loop in her mind. What will he demand in return? The dry October cold seeped through the windows. Mia could see her breath, small clouds disappearing into the darkness. She pulled out a piece of notebook paper, the cheap kind, the kind she bought in bulk from the dollar store, and began to write. The words came like a dam breaking. I cannot let my children become targets because of me. You saved us, but I have to save them now. I am sorry. I am so sorry. What you did for us, I will never be able to repay it, and maybe that is why I have to leave. Because I cannot keep owing a man like you, and I cannot keep risking my babies. Thank you for reminding me what kindness feels like. I will never forget you. She folded the letter twice. Then she packed 2 bags in the dark so the children would not hear the zippers. Just enough clothes. Just enough to disappear. She planned the 6:24 a.m. bus to Vermont, to her sister's place in the mountains where no one would think to look. Where Douglas and Cordelia and Aleandro and the entire weight of this city could not reach them. She sat in the darkness, waiting for dawn, tears streaming silently down her face. Then Lucas appeared in the doorway at 3 in the morning, sleepy, confused, his dinosaur stuffed animal dragging behind him. Mama, where are we going? She looked at her son's innocent face, 5 years old, still unburdened, still believing she could protect him from anything. Something broke open inside her. But also something hardened. A decision crystallized like ice forming on a winter pond. She would protect them. No matter what it cost. Across the city, in an office on the 23rd floor of a building that overlooked the harbor, Aleandro Valenti sat across from Tony and Luca at 2 in the morning. The file lay open between them. 2 inches thick. Douglas Hale's entire criminal architecture exposed like an autopsy. Drug trafficking through the docks. Using his cop connections for cover. Multiple women, 8 of them, who had filed reports that disappeared into the system. Evidence of violence, stalking, witness intimidation. A man protected by his own department because he was part of the machinery. Aleandro's jaw tightened so hard his temple pulsed. He threatened the daughter. Aleandro asked, though he already knew the answer. 6 years old, Luca said quietly. Told the mother he would take the girl if she kept running. Something cold and dangerous stirred in Aleandro's chest. He thought of his own father. He thought of being 7 years old and hearing his mother scream from the other room. He thought of hunger and darkness and a violence so absolute it had its own gravity. He pulled out his phone and made 3 calls. The first to his lawyer, instructing him to prepare federal charges. The second to a prosecutor he had leverage over, old debts, old favors, old photographs that would stay buried if he did exactly what Aleandro required. The third to an FBI contact who owed him 2 years of silence on certain shipping operations. Douglas Hale, he said to the FBI contact, his voice steady as stone. Federal custody by dawn. I want every charge that will stick. I want 40 years minimum. Drug trafficking, witness intimidation, stalking, conspiracy. Everything. The contact hesitated. That is a lot of pressure, Valenti. You owe me, Aleandro said. This man threatens a 6-year-old girl. Make it happen. Or those photographs from 2019 get very public very fast. He hung up. Then he waited. 5:47 in the morning, and the battering ram hit Douglas Hale's apartment door like thunder. 12 FBI agents in tactical gear, weapons drawn, flooding through the frame with practiced precision. Red lasers cutting through the darkness. Douglas stumbled out of bed, confused, stumbling, reaching for something that was not there. He saw the guns. His face went white. The agent in charge approached him slowly. Douglas Hale, you are under federal arrest for drug trafficking, witness intimidation, conspiracy, and stalking charges. You have the right to remain silent. Douglas collapsed to his knees, trembling like a cornered animal, his voice cracking into pieces. Wait, I have connections. I have friends in the department. They will. Your friends cannot help you now, the agent said. You are looking at 40 years. They dragged him out in handcuffs. News cameras were already waiting outside the building. Aleandro had made sure of that. By 7 o'clock in the morning, every Boston news channel was running the footage, Douglas Hale, unshaven and terrified, being loaded into a federal vehicle. His career, his protection, his entire world collapsing in real time on live television. By noon, Cordelia Blackwood received a message. For words, you should have listened. Then the document started leaking. Her network of social destruction. The vulnerable family she had manipulated. The illegal financial schemes buried in charitable foundations. By afternoon, her charities were under federal investigation. By evening, her society friends were issuing statements about how they had never actually met her, how shocked they were to learn about her activities. Her phone stopped ringing. Her invitations were rescinded. Her name became toxic. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Mia Harper stood at South Station with 2 bags at her feet and her children sleeping against her shoulders. The goodbye letter was folded in her trembling hands. The 6:06 a.m. bus to Vermont idled at the gate. All she had to do was walk forward. She did not see him coming through the harsh station lights. Aleandro Valenti moved toward her with Tony and Luca behind him, his dark coat moving like water around his broad frame. He wore a charcoal suit beneath it, the kind that cost more than her last 2 months of rent combined. His dark eyes found hers across the distance. He stopped directly in front of her. "You were going to leave," he said. Not a question. A statement of fact. Mia could not speak. She just nodded. "You have to protect them," Aleandro continued, "I understand. But you do not have to run anymore." His voice was quiet, almost gentle. "Douglas Hale is in federal custody. 40-year sentence. He will never touch you again." Mia shook her head slowly. It could not be that simple. "And Cordelia Blackwood," he continued, "has been neutralized. I made sure of it. Her entire operation is under investigation. She will spend the next decade fighting federal charges. She cannot touch you." "Why?" Mia's voice broke. "Why would you do all this?" Aleandro crouched so he was eye level with her, careful not to disturb the sleeping children against her shoulders. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. "I grew up with a violent father. I watched my mother suffer. I ate from dumpsters and slept in cars. I swore that when I had power, no child would ever be afraid like I was. Your daughter will not live in fear. Not while I can stop it." Mia's hand shook. She held out the letter. Aleandro took it and read the words she had written in the dark, standing there in the harsh station lights. When he looked up, his eyes were bright with unshed tears, something she had never seen before, something that would have seemed impossible until this moment. "You do not endanger me, Mia," he said quietly. "You remind me why I fought to survive. Come home. Let me help you build something safe for them." She collapsed into his arms, sobbing, and the goodbye letter fell to the floor of the bus station, forgotten. The storm had passed. 1 week after the bus station, Mia Harper stood in front of the mirror in her apartment and did not recognize the woman looking back. The radiator hissed with heat for the first time in 6 months. The refrigerator hummed in the kitchen, actually full: milk, eggs, vegetables, cheese, things she had stopped allowing herself to want. New winter coats hung on pegs by the door, thick and navy blue, with price tags still attached that she was afraid to look at. Emma slept on the couch under a blanket that did not have a hole in it. Lucas clutched a new dinosaur book so tightly his small hands had creased the spine. Everything had changed. Not because of her. Because of him. Mia pulled her hair into a ponytail and smoothed down the front of her diner uniform. The fabric no longer smelled like grease and despair. It smelled like detergent. She stood a little straighter. The exhaustion that had lived in her bones for 3 years had not disappeared entirely, but it had loosened its grip. When she arrived at Mason's family restaurant at 5 in the afternoon, the kitchen was already warming up for the dinner rush. Frank, the owner, a man in his 60s with kind eyes and permanent flour on his apron, looked up from the prep counter. "Mia," he called out. "You're early." "I wanted to be," she said quietly. She tied her apron and moved through the familiar motions, filling water glasses, checking the specials board, wiping down the counter with the same cloth she had used 1,000 times before. But something in her movements had changed. Her co-workers noticed. Sarah, a waitress who worked the lunch shift, pulled Mia aside as she was restocking napkins. "Whatever happened," Sarah said, "I am glad you are okay. I was worried about you." Mia had never told anyone her story. Not at work. Not the details. But worry had a way of showing itself in how people looked at you. She squeezed Sarah's hand and nodded. At closing time, after the last customer had paid and left, after the chairs were stacked and the floors were swept, the bell above the door chimed. Aleandro Valenti walked in alone. He wore a charcoal suit, a white shirt open at the collar, and his wool coat hung over his arm like he had just decided to remove it. His dark eyes found her immediately. At this hour, the diner was empty except for Frank wiping down the kitchen in the back. The fluorescent lights hummed their lonely hum. Outside, November rain tapped against the windows like impatient fingers. He sat at the counter, and Mia poured him coffee with hands that wanted to shake but did not. "How are the children?" he asked. "They are sleeping." finally warm enough to sleep through the night. She set the cup down carefully, and he wrapped his hands around it. The gold watch on his wrist caught the light. A watch that probably cost more than her rent used to be. Emma drew something, Mia continued, surprised at how easily the words came. A picture of the sun. She said it was for sad days. When she feels sad, she looks at it. Aleandro smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. Children are wise in ways we forget. Lucas is reading about dinosaurs. He fell asleep with the book open on his face. He asked me if they died because they were not strong enough. Mia paused. I told him they died because the world changed, and no one can survive a world they were not built for. But that does not make them weak. You are a good mother, Aleandro said. The words landed like a stone in still water. Mia turned away, pretending to wipe the counter. When she spoke again, her voice was barely steady. You asked me once why I pulled you from that car. You were a stranger. I did not know who you were. I remember. But I know now, she said. I know what you do. I know about your business, your men, the things people say about you. Are you trying to scare me away? Aleandro set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. The silence stretched between them like a living thing. When he spoke, his voice was different, lower, rougher, stripped of its usual control. I am trying to be honest with you. You deserve to know who I am before you. He stopped. Before anything else happens between us. Then tell me, Mia said. He looked at his hands. When I was 12 years old, my father came home drunk at 2 in the morning. My mother was asleep. I was awake, reading by candlelight because we could not afford electricity. He beat her until she stopped moving. I called for an ambulance, but he told the police she fell down the stairs. They believed him. She died 3 days later from internal bleeding. Mia's hand went to her throat. I lived on the streets after that, Aleandro continued. Sleeping in cars, stealing food, learning very quickly that the world belongs to people who are willing to take it by force. I built my empire because I never wanted another child to watch their mother die at the hands of someone who claimed to love her. He looked up at her. So no, I am not trying to scare you away. I am telling you that I understand what it means to be powerless. And I am telling you that I used every ounce of power I have to make sure Douglas Hale can never hurt you again. Not because you owe me anything. But because you saved my life without knowing who I was, and that is the rarest thing. Mia reached across the counter and touched his hand. Her palm rested against his skin, and she felt the warmth of him, the realness of him beneath the tailored suit and the gold and the darkness. I know who you are, she said. You are the man who saved my children. He turned his hand over and held hers. Thanksgiving came 3 weeks later, on a Thursday that dawned cold and clear. The apartment had been transformed by Aleandro's quiet insistence on small luxuries. New curtains in the living room. A tablecloth that was not stained. A turkey that actually fit in the oven without falling apart. Mia had made sweet potatoes and stuffing from her mother's recipe, using butter that she no longer had to calculate the cost of in her head. At 5 o'clock, a black SUV pulled up outside. Emma and Lucas had been told to expect a visitor, but they were shy when he arrived, standing half-hidden behind Mia's legs. Aleandro crouched down, a movement that would have looked impossible on a man of his size and reputation, but he made it look gentle. I brought something for you, he said to Emma, holding out a leather art case filled with colored pencils. Expensive ones. The kind that artists used. Emma's eyes widened. She took it and opened it slowly, as if she expected it to disappear. For Lucas, he brought books. All of them about dinosaurs. Species Mia had never heard of, with detailed illustrations and scientific explanations. Lucas clutched the top book to his chest and whispered, "Thank you." Aleandro stood and looked at Mia. "Whatever you need me to do, I will do." The dinner was simple. Turkey and sweet potatoes and stuffing and green beans. The four of them sat around Mia's small table, and there was a moment, just a moment, where Mia saw Aleandro's expression change as he looked around at the handmade decorations, the children laughing with their mouths full, the steam rising from the serving dishes. She realized he had never experienced this before. This warmth that had nothing to do with heating bills or central air. This kind of peace. Outside, in the black SUV parked on the street, Tony and Luca watched through the window at the apartment above. Warm light spilled from the windows. They could see the shapes of people sitting together. "The boss has gone soft," Tony said quietly. Luca smiled. "Maybe that is not a bad thing." 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, on a night when Emma and Lucas were asleep and the apartment was quiet except for the sound of the refrigerator humming, Mia pulled out the worn prayer card her mother had given her before she died. The cardstock was yellowed with age. The edges were soft from being held. The words were printed in small, careful letters, "The storm will pass and you are far stronger than you think." She showed it to Aleandro, who was sitting on the couch with his arm stretched along the back of the cushions. "My mother gave me this when I was 17, Mia said. Right before everything fell apart. I have kept it in my pocket for 9 years. I used to read it on days when I could not feed both children. Days when the landlord was banging on the door. Days when I thought about driving the car off a bridge and leaving the insurance money for them." Aleandro's entire body went still. "I used to think I was weak," Mia continued. "That strong people do not need prayer cards. Strong people do not cry in their cars. Strong people do not have to choose between medicine and rent." She looked at the card in her hands. "But then I realized something. I survived every single day. We all did. Even when everything told us to break, we did not break." She raised her eyes to his. "You asked me once who I really am. I am someone who survived. We survived." Aleandro moved toward her slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to. She did not want to. When he reached her, he took the prayer card from her hands and read the words aloud, his voice barely audible. Then he set it down on the table between them and reached for her face with both hands. The kiss was gentle. Careful. A man who has spent his life breaking things, learning to be soft. When they pulled apart, Mia whispered, "I am not going anywhere." Aleandro touched his forehead to hers. "I am not going anywhere either. Take all the time you need. I will wait." 3 months later, in the sharp light of early February, Mia Harper stood in Boston Common with her children running ahead, chasing pigeons that scattered and regrouped in synchronized chaos. The sun was low on the horizon, turning the sky orange and pink and gold. Aleandro walked beside her, his coat open despite the cold. She stopped walking. He stopped with her. Emma and Lucas were 20 feet ahead, still chasing birds. "I enrolled in nursing school," Mia said. "The classes start in March. I want to become someone who helps people instead of someone who is always being helped." "I know," Aleandro said. "I received the tuition bill." "Aleandro, you are not going to school on borrowed time anymore," he said quietly. "You are going to go because you want to. And you are going to graduate. And you are going to help people. And I will be here, watching you do it." Mia reached up and kissed him, not soft this time, but with the certainty of someone who has finally stopped running. When they pulled apart, she whispered the words she had been afraid to say since the night he found her at the bus station. "Thank you for not giving up on us." Aleandro's hand moved to her cheek. "I told you. No child suffers under my watch. That includes you." That evening, after Emma and Lucas were tucked into bed, Mia sat between them and pulled out the worn prayer card. She read the words aloud, her voice steady and sure, "The storm will pass and you are far stronger than you think." Emma, half asleep, asked the question that Mia had been waiting for. "Is the storm over, Mama?" Mia smiled and kissed her daughter's forehead. "Yes, baby. The storm is over." In his office across the city, Aleandro Valenti sat behind a desk made of dark wood that had belonged to 4 men before him, all of them dead. Tony knocked and entered, carrying a file folder. Another situation, Tony said. Woman in the Saudi projects. Boyfriend is connected to the Moretti family. She tried to leave. They are making it difficult. Aleandro took the folder but did not open it immediately. He thought about Mia counting $5 in the dark. He thought about Emma's drawing of the sun. He thought about what it meant to have power and what it meant to use it. Find her, he said quietly. Help her. Make sure she and her children are safe. Tony grinned. You have changed, boss. Aleandro looked up from the desk. Maybe I just remembered who I wanted to be. This story is about the power of one act of courage in the coldest moment. Mia Harper saved a stranger's life without knowing who he was or what he could do for her. In return, Aleandro Valenti used every ounce of power he possessed, not for revenge, not for profit, but to protect the most vulnerable person he had ever met. It reminds us that strength is not measured in dollars or influence or the size of your empire. Strength is standing up when everything tells you to run. Strength is using whatever power you have to shield those who cannot shield themselves. Sometimes the people who seem the most broken are the ones with the most courage. And sometimes, the most dangerous man in the city is the one who will move heaven and earth to make sure a child never cries in fear again. If this story moved your heart, if it reminded you of your own strength or someone you love, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications because we bring you powerful stories like this every single day. Drop a comment below and tell us, what would you have done in Mia's position? Would you have stopped for a stranger in the storm? Thank you for watching. See you in the next story. And remember, the storm will pass, and you are far stronger than you think. We wish you good health, a joyful life, and days filled with peace and happiness. Goodbye, and we will see you again very soon.